Okay, so over time, as I have experienced the stages, the journey, the different parts of life that the human experiences, I've come to believe this is hypotheses, this is not law, theory. Like, I can't prove this to anybody. I'm not going to be standing inside of a university teaching this, but there's this idea of you become two different people, or you grow into a two-headed being, a dual-sided, a dual-natured, maybe not even dual, because I don't know if these two concepts are 100% opposites, at least up to the point where I can say it's a dual. I mean, I don't know the exact definition of duality, but there is the philosopher and the beast, as I mentioned in my last video, um, in passing. The philosopher is the one that you become as a result of all your thinking, as a result of all your intellectual analyses, whatever, your intellectual conclusions of all the information that you've consumed over time. Um, and then there's the beast. Beast is maybe you're at this. Yeah, I don't know. The beast is the human side of you, the instinctual, the primitive, like the hungry, the tired, the emotional. I think that all of our actions are fueled by a combination of those two. I don't know if you ever really get away from one completely or the other. Like, if you're a complete beast, then you're probably a menace to society. And if you are a complete philosopher or a complete intellectual, there's a good chance that you're a psychopath or a sociopath because you're all about results. Either way, you're all about results, but it's like there's a ratio, there's a spectrum on each side. You can't go too far in either direction. You can't be too intellectual, or not that you can't be too smart, but I feel like your decisions have to include human emotions and other people, or else you run the risk of being a social misfit, a social deviant. You run the risk of being a very mischievous person. Probably pronouncing that wrong, but and the same thing goes with the beast. Like the beast, the reference, the bull in the china store or the china shop or the glass house. The bull is not considering the material that it might break if it wants to be a bull and buck, to do what it does, like bull riders. I don't know what the term is for that, but whatever you would call that. If it feels like going wild in the china shop, that's going to be pretty destructive. But as far as the bull is concerned, the inside of the mind of the beast, it has done nothing wrong. It's only satisfied its primitive desire to do that thing, like a cat playing with a ball of yarn. Massively different consequences, but it's all about that itch on the inside, that inclination to just do. And the philosopher, though it's still fueled by the beast, because I think as a human, as a beast, as an animal, as a species, as a creation, as a thing, you know, ducks quack, you know, um, birds fly, humans feel emotions, and those emotions influence our thoughts and influence the type of philosopher that we become. So that's partially why I say you never fully escape the beast. You're always a combination of the two, maybe just more on one side than the other. But um, yeah, if you become too logical, what might you do? Like I can't even say what you would do. I can't say what any person would do because there's different types of people, different types of philosophers. I mean, over the course of history, I mean, there've probably been hundreds, if not thousands, of philosophers, documented and undocumented, recognized and unrecognized. Um, some that many agreed with, and others that they felt their work was only worth being thrown out of a window or burned. But all of these people, to some extent, I think, were uh, on the path towards at least becoming a competent philosopher or a competent intellectual. But I don't know if to say that they would be competent necessarily means that they would be good for society. Like I don't want to demonize either side because I feel like I'm going in that direction right now. But the bigger point for me to get to is just this idea of becoming a combination of these two ideas. And what I find to be most important is to somehow stay in the middle of all of it, somehow not to be too animalistic and somehow not to be too intellectual and too logical so that you don't become more of, so that you're not more, so that you can remain a productive human being, so that you can work in harmony with other people. Uh, but from time to time, I think every stage of life and with no set time frame, you gotta go back and forth. Sometimes you gotta be an animal, sometimes you gotta be an intellectual. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. I think in this day and age, it's safe to say, let's be an intellectual. But when you come time to eat, you gotta eat. But also at the same time, those may not be the best examples of what I can give. But even those things vary. Like there's still an intellectual. Like there's the beast must eat, but so must the intellectual. But the nature of eating, I think, is a primitive. It's a primitive thing. So the beast just eats, but the beast does not necessarily consider what it eats. It just eats what it wants. Now maybe the nutritional value is somehow linked with a certain desire for a certain flavor by the subconscious mind, by the body, without the awareness or the approval of the intellectual. But over time, if the intellectual makes it far enough, he can become the one who decides to satisfy that primitive urge in an intellectual fashion. So, you know, and like even if someone cuts you off in traffic, like you can be an intellectual jerk, you can find some way to pay them back. Um, and that would be like maybe more of a beast way of being an intellectual. Like someone cut you off, so you're mad, so you just want to make sure that you make at the very least you make them feel how you felt, pissed off, and so you calm down just to find an opportunity to upset them because they upset you. But I feel like I've gone too far down that lane. I don't want to promote any. I don't want to promote anything that bad, anything unnecessary. I just wanted to use these things for example, but um, just wanted to recognize those two concepts, talk a little bit about them, and again, see where it goes. If anybody watches this and you find any of this interesting, let me know what you think, and maybe it'll fuel something else. Maybe you'll correct me. Maybe I'll be able to clarify something that I meant. Maybe something will make some progress. But that is this video.